Well, now, with regards to Drake, should you be prepared to see how there is the Ice Spice Man's even more dramatic White Man record? And now, following a significant report from the industry itself, we do understand that Drake hasn't simply canceled his album Iceman, and the Karens will not receive their long-term project. But Lou Bray is so terrified that he persuaded his pals to return their projects. And to save everyone, try moving them around in their professional lives as well. Make sure to please subscribe and like this, because with the Iceman's White, whenever we get the Man album, it is taking a further stride. Nearer to melting, because at this moment, Drake's situation is improving. And they are even worse than the tune. Episode slop flops. And everything else unsuccessful drops. An issue has arisen that Drake's career has encountered that is greater than anything else. We've never seen him fall on him in this complete fall off, which is obviously talking a lot. I'm being serious though. And with that, you can be sure it will be a nice one today. Thus, don't forget to leave a review if you haven't already. For example, actually, it helps me a lot since at the moment, Drake doesn't find it surprising. Or to put it mildly, this week has not been good for him given the ongoing song leaks and considering that he is actually losing his whole brain as he attempts to complete his tour. However, after that, things are worse than that. Additionally, there are considerably more significant problems for him, which really ultimately boil down to the reality that Drake is fighting and disparaging his own label as well as the music business, which, while he was friendly with, took care to irritate us with he maintained the most obnoxious music, releasing, and once more. To recall the rap's worst period during that time when Kendrick went on a 5-year hiatus and improved. Mr. Morale and acted normally. Someone who is putting themselves first and avoiding slop releases like Tucky Slide. In any case, Drake and his little friends in the label made all of the things you perhaps associate with the slop of records, music, and the moments they continued to provide us and confirmed that the figures were wherever they were at all times. The moment when I thought we were getting 2 slides is inevitable, repeatedly. However, naturally, quick by now, all of that has vanished, and Drake has destroyed all of his relationships, together with the label. And the significance of this is due to the fact that this end-of-year slate regarding record releases is just increasing in size at the present. And with the last bit of information we learned about today, it's now hindered Drake's chances of receiving a top album for the remainder of the year. Naturally, this is the worst, something that may have occurred for him. Therefore, in regard to Drake versus the industry and all that's happening, he recognizes the extent of his mess and how he is not surrounded by any fanfare. Additionally, in reaction to this in the background, he is doing everything he can to pull any threads to counteract this and appear to undermine the sector. However, this is going to fail, and this is all that is going to ultimately fail. And now, prior to examining the Iceman project being canceled, we must examine if Drake was delayed in something else, which is the latest album by Young Thug, which has been a complete disaster with regard to its development, implementation, and PR. And the record has been everywhere for a while, naturally. However, with that said, it appears that Drake and Young, at least you're acting like buddies. Thug and they have resolved any problems that they possess. And for 2, I suppose, losers who have made mistakes as serious as theirs, they must remain united, or otherwise they will have a confrontation. Lesser likelihood of ever making a return. Speaking of comebacks, then this Young Thug is being used by them. Album as an additional opportunity to celebrate that as ended in order to continue, and 2, attempt to obtain a significant record of some kind. Or Unmarried to demonstrate that this other side of hip-hop can remain enjoyable and they can continue to move the charts. Additionally, this record was expected to fall. Initially, they relocated on September 19th, returned on September 26th as a result of Young Drake, Thug, and anyone else who is still remaining on this losing squad would like to get a top record, and they'd want to give it a go. To leave Cardi and receive a huge Song B's method, as they are aware of the numbers for that, which will be enormous, and pay attention. While once more when it comes to making plans and the entire slate of where these people are indeed competing against the industry, the prospects are just dire, and they haven't actually given things much thought through, and everything is coming back to haunt them here because they have competition left. On September 26th with Doycat. Loser Jeffrey and the Ice Spiceman do still stand a higher chance of defeating more than Cardi. Additionally, I suppose there are rumors that include Lil Baby. Future is not interested in being on the record anymore, and they have taken themselves well. This postponement has given Young Thug and Drake a little additional time to plan and attempt to put anyone interested in joining this record on it, which is really only a last-ditch attempt to preserve and return to any kind of prominence in any of their respective roles. However, moving past this album, which, despite how pitiful this sounds, is hip-hop's other side, comparable to what the Clips accomplished with Let God Take Care of Them, it's another record that is attempting to participate in the whole of this movement in terms of the rap's opposing side seeking and attempting to use it to convey a larger idea and demonstra a thought. None of them have been removed. However, most likely none of it will be done, and this place has a really low bar. However, in reality, for Young Thug, Drake, and all of these other losers who miss the Tucky a lot, if you're a lover of the sliding period of rap, you had best be prepared to have fun, because with the possible exception of a few additional singles that will switch between Iceman episodes, nothing is being given to you folks from the cupcake. And why this is all due to a real strategy and plan in the sector that is so large that the sole individual who might oppose it, Kendrick Lamar, is now the year-end gets a #1 album as a result of he has demonstrated that he is that big. And he does possess the ability. And now, what is this plan I'm discussing? To be honest, this is the most appropriate means to sabotage Drake's scheme and cause everything involving the White Man Iceman remaining album, which now comes returning to the last boss in the music industry. With Drake's popularity in the business overlooked, he has consistently been a larger sweetheart than he is in the only forthcoming album by Taylor Swift, The Showgirl Life, which, to be honest, when you just kind of see Drake and Taylor where they are engaged in their secret feud like two pampered children attempting to identify who has more than the other, it does. Now, sweetie, it seems like there is only one industry. Drake has left and crashed out due to quitting after losing a rap feud. The home and palace that ensured believed he would always succeed and that he would be good at all times. As if with one of what's the same with these pampered brats gone? Label that Drake is subtly making fun of, complaining, creating, and mailing. All what these strange messages are doing now is making every attempt to create this new Taylor Swift album. And things will become worse for everyone else, due to the fact that with the reports that just surfaced, well, it's going to become insane. The tunes the industry is now preparing for a marketing and rollout that comes from October, when the album is released, for the beginning of the month, to then for perhaps the next year. They're claiming that this will be the most promotion and release for any record because of MJ's Thriller. Additionally, when you simply observe that, looking at the optics that attempting to produce, this is the language that they're using publicly. Let's just break things again, please. Down and explain the Ice Spiceman's reasoning. You won't be receiving that Iceman record. It ultimately boils down to this. If we recall that when GNX fell last year, it was able to hold the top spot for a few weeks before 2024 ends. Furthermore, naturally, at the end of November, it fell and was present for the holidays after that. However, as there were no tangible documents available, its streaming figures were insufficient to rank it higher than Taylor Swift's last year's April album, of which 200,000 copies are sold each week, only from CDs and vinyls being picked up from vacationers who are also inside the sector. If you haven't found it out yet, now's the ideal moment to drop a Taylor Swift album, since it will be the time of year when everyone is intending to purchase for the holidays and obtaining tangible merchandise. When you observe everything and how Drake is unable to release a single on streaming, yes, but without leaking it. The Ice Spice Man is located here. melting, and the location of everything's a ravel down. Furthermore, for Drake, does it truly seem like we've come full circle? Moment away from every setback and the lawsuit, along with all of his other possessions triggered. Because to actually just continue a complete circle trip in November of the largest industrial, darling, in 2024, and a man who always boasted about being so crucial to the device, then suing them, after which you are aware of that period. At the 2025 Grammy Awards, Lucian and Taylor Swift were seated behind them and they stood out. And he genuinely sent Drake's advice that they don't require. Taylor and are far more valued than him, more than he ever will to this entire system. B. Additionally, Drake is now in the year where he is being sued. And he has been talking about the label up until the moment at which he isn't not only the label that's being concealed, though he is disparaging their family as well. Now, when everything is occurring, you're informing me that they're investing all of his resources. Taylor's into what they used to get and are announcing the largest album release ever since Thriller. Again, I mean, when the language and expression of this whole thing, regardless of what the truth is, Ice essentially stating that this will be Thriller's LP counterpart, which is obviously more than simply an album. Yet it's the record. It's getting hot after all. Inside that, the Ice Spice Man is no longer there. And there's simply no way today with this Drake will be putting this into a projectionately. Because if he does, but it doesn't reach the top, or it just performs sales figures that appear to a decimal place in relation to all Taylor is performing, he is going into the week-by-week album cycle well. Drake is leaving Dot to suffer such humiliation that no one will ever again respect him. Having his own supporters like Drake, and this is where things happen once more, become amusing to us, but where they go completely circles in relation to the fact that he has released and produced it and how it is returning to haunt him. Okay, so is that for Drake now? Well, several other artists may sell or drop to number 2. Anything they did. Additionally, if the song is excellent, the project is unaffected and will ultimately become iconic. For Drake is credited with establishing this number culture, and who has developed a following that uses calculators to listen to music, and who simply uses numbers to make decisions. Now, however, the very obstacles that he developed and attempted to withstand discrediting other artists and simply keeping things under his authority are currently down to ruin and destroy him in a way that we have never witnessed throughout his professional life, due to the fact that he's no longer the numbers man calculating the figures. Furthermore, I don't believe Drake's persona or profession can really overcome an album that fails to succeed. This will work, and that might barely reach the second position in the charts instead of number 1. Additionally, in general, particularly when you take into account the fact Drake really carried out a rollout for this project, rather than simply churning it out as soon as possible, such as many of the other careless people have been releasing within the last several years. I mean, everyone has just witnessed the effort that he has invested in it, in contrast to, as an example, for every dog, I suppose. With this, I mean, there's no other way of saying it. Drake has stacked himself in a difficult position, and he just won't be capable of competing for a long period, up to the current moment when the Iceman is either melting or frozen. In any case, there isn't an album, or he is just going to be afraid to take a very long period. Therefore, for Drake, due to all of his poor decisions, correct? Currently, from the culture of numbers that he made far more significant than the actual musical creativity and brilliance, as well as for his want to attempt to make it all about how he is superior to everyone else. Artists, due to the terrible situation that he got inserted into, and then proceeded against the very designation that you were given for this transaction and even provided you with the figures. Man, first of all, and believing that there's always a chance to win. I mean, this is just a strange manner of moving. Everything is melting down on the ice guy. And with that, my thoughts once and for all on anything that is actually the case here are that there will be no Iceman drop, at least until the remainder of 2025, and perhaps not until the middle of 2026, due To how poorly the rollout of proceeding, this would be a kind estimate. However, in all honesty, it might not come out at any time. Additionally, to be truthful, for Drake's album is crucial to its success, and everyone wants to, and fans want it. Hear it in order to just observe how he will not hold up under all of this strain. That he made everything himself, illusion and crash out. I mean, really? But when Drake comes here, it will be a lose-lose circumstance, and he is solely responsible for it. Additionally, ultimately, what is the true lesson and the conclusion from this is that everything should just be comprehended and possess some level of respect. Because if you actually understood the significance of the labels, up and you weren't simply the most conceited bit of garbage ever. Or how, based on your understanding and anticipations of this society of calculators, you imposed your music to reach the top or do a specific quantity of figures in the first week, or it's a huge failure. And perhaps if you comprehended the most crucial element, which is that you may always be substituted in the sector. Furthermore, they are considerably more have someone more precious all along. The entire time. Perhaps for Drake, your fall-off would be less severe than ours, are witnessing today due to your failure. To only obtain one of these items to enter your Karen's mind? And now here we are, where the Iceman, the album will never be released. Additionally, you can attempt to deflect and simply listen. Pretend that the sector is halting from your dropping it. Additionally, you may push this by telling your story to your audience in order to make them more irate and simply to accept the illusion more in an attempt to retain them. Okay, if you remain in a certain position, limbo, and you just don't release any songs because you're afraid of everything, you're emitting. Yes, exactly as much because it can prevent your admirers from betraying you. You, after you've demonstrated that you are the only thing it will do. The flop guy is maintain your career in this condition of ruin. Therefore, in my opinion, when you simply glance at the circumstance that Drake has brought about and absolutely the hole he's made a career in, it's great depth. I truly am unable to recall a previous instance in which we witnessed Dan. Artist just makes a whole culture and an empty space where you've diluted and pushed things to the point where they are today, literally as a result of your own decisions. Considering the manner in which you choose to relocate, you really can't stop dropping songs for so long. In contrast to your own requirements, you'll fail, and you will appear shameful to everyone. And what do you know? For the Drake stans who are still unable to understand this or are going to attempt doing some acrobatics in order to escape, I'll just place the ball in your court and dissect it in a manner that you will receive it, which is now the best, perhaps the greatest Drake song ever. And it's just since Jay-Z is included, and it does contain Pound Cake, which has an incredible beat. Okay, currently, the Drake stans are when Drake first created. Just keep this in mind. Half-decent music, and in all honesty, Drake ought to have done so. And perhaps he would not have been enmeshed in his current situation at the moment when these big figures were affecting the use of music calculators. They are so affected by the game, and he can stop dropping. Which means that at the conclusion, the day's music and performers who are attempting to produce something that will endure over time and possess any kind of effect that only authentic music can have. And every other game is a waste. Gimmicks, slides, and any other things that you're doing well, just like us. Looking for Drake, and it seems like he troubled him at the moment and is present now. And tomorrow, it will be gone. So now, having stated that, tell me what you do. You consider the possibilities of Drake's Iceman's current album, where he is bringing it, and the extent of the mess all in, and how do you anticipate things to unfold? To occur now, knowing everything that's occurring concurrently in the sector. I'm eager to hear what you have to say now, to discuss all of this. Additionally, if you'd want to assist the channel memberships are available now, and you may do that. For me, it is a huge assistance. Additionally, you may like and, as always, subscribe. It's really, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it. I'm eager to hear what you have to say now. To express. If you want to see how prior to this, Drake just lost his thinking in a manner that genuinely demonstrates that this is indeed going to happen if he does dump. Iceman. To not succeed. If he doesn't, it's just going to become more humorous than before. Verify. Check out the recommended video.